How do you do? Welcome to the racing segment on Wide World of Sports, and right off the top we're going to talk about the big one yesterday, the Moia Shandon Champagne Stakes. We have victorious jockey Shane Dye with us, rider of Burst, and victorious trainer Clary Connors. Thanks for coming all the way in, Clary.
Thanks a lot, John. Pleasure to be here.
Had I said to you 5 years ago you would be the trainer of a Derby winner, 2 Oaks winners, 2 Slippers, 2 Champagnes and 2 Sires Produce Stakes, what would you have said to me?
I think I said you're elucidating or something, John. I never dreamt it.
Just incredible, isn't it?
Had a great 3 years, and the last 12 months has been magic.
Research, Terse and Burst. Let's hope there's another one coming up next year.
It's going to be a hard act to follow.
Well, Shane, my boy, there was a lot of conjecture about your ride on Burst yesterday. Now, you know, some say had she been beaten, instead of winning by a very narrow margin, you'd have been targeted for some criticism. What do you say to that?
Well, I thought I rode the horse perfect. You know, if I'd had to ride her over 100 times again, I'd do the same every time. I went out there with the opinion I'd lead or trail or be where she wanted to be. And she wanted to race back last, and she travelled nice, and she's got a better finish than any horse in Australia or any 2-year-old, and I realised that, so I just made her relax.
Let's watch the start of the race. You come out of #1 barrier. You just about won the start, took hold immediately, and they don't look to be going all that fast to me in the early stages.
Oh, they went very, very fast for the first 200 metres, and then they pulled up and they cantered. But as you could see, when I come out of the gate, she was very, very relaxed. Now, Commissar, I moved around him here. He was getting into trouble.
Now, this is the part we want to watch. You're going up on the inside of Sir Amadi. You're close to the heels of Never Forget, and you've got to push Sir Amadi out of the way to get into the clear. Was she unbalanced there for a stride?
Well, to me, no, she wasn't. The run was always going to come. There was plenty of room, I felt, on her anyway. And I was surprised the margin was so close, because when the rail's out at Randwick, coming down the outside, you think you've won easier, and I thought I'd won by a good head.
Now, by crikey, there's just barely a run there, Shane. Now, if there's a run there, fair dinkum, I'll go down to Gibbon Beeman's. Now there is, because you made one.
I was never worried, I made one. When you're on a good horse, you can always make a run, as I did there, and you've got to be confident riding champion horses, and if you're not confident, you may as well not ride them, and you've got to set them a task like this, and that's what wins big races.
All right, well, you've explained yourself very precisely and decisively. Now, Clary Connors, you were sitting in the stand. How were you feeling?
Yeah, John, the way I looked at the race, we did plan to ride the horse quietly, but not that far back. I think we got tricked a bit when they jumped out of come out of the barriers, and Commissar in front just sort of stopped in front, and then sort of pushed me too far back, and then.
Clary, you don't
we're just watching here, Clary.
No, I wasn't really happy here.
Did you think she'd got beat?
I was quite sure she got beat. Quite sure she got beat.
Well, I can tell you I was never worried.
Yeah, but we sort of, you know, it was a whisker of winning or losing, and that was all. And I just thought it, coming down the straight, I thought, oh, how's she going to get there? Because it was giving them other horses, when they went so slow early, they ran the first half mile in 51.5, and she had to come in the last half mile faster than 47.5. So it was very hard for her, but it was a great effort, you know.
In the spring, Clary, what's her campaign?
Well, she'll come back and race in the Flight Stakes here, and the lead-up race to that. Then off to Melbourne for the Wakeful and the VRC Oaks.
Who'll be the jockey, Clary?
Well, while he's winning, we've got to leave him on.
Would the Cox Plate be on a program if she come out and won well?
No, well, we'll see what happens anyhow, but I'd like to try and keep her to fillies races as long as possible.
Shane, I think we've got the actual photo finish print. Now, you thought you'd won by about a head. Have a look at that. That is a good-sized wart.
There's a big difference between winning and losing, and that's the difference.
By the way, you've got no doubts this filly will stay?
Well, she proved it yesterday. I was disappointed in her run in the Sires. I thought she should have won easier. So yesterday I rode her quietly, hoping she wouldn't pull. But in the Sires I dug her up to race close, and she didn't like it. So I rode her quiet yesterday, and she should settle all day and be able to stay.
So you're really looking forward to the spring?
Well, yes, definitely. There's no doubt about that. I'm lucky to get a 2-year-old, which is good enough to carry on and give me a great chance to win great races as a 3-year-old.
Well, your ride in the St Ledger Stakes was a New Zealander called Lord Stapleton, stablemate to the favourite Cavalieri, who did not fire a shot. Western Showdown with the White Blaze is in front. He ran a very gallant race. Il Sorbo's going after him. Now, Tough Enough is only a little bloke, Jimmy Cassidy on board, but he's as game as Ned Kelly. The favourite running about third last on the outside, yellow colours, white breastplate. Awful run, Cavalieri.
Yes, it was. This was a very, very bad field for a St. Ledger. You know, last year you had horses like Castletown, Just a Dancer. This is probably one of the worst fields you can get. There's really no form out of the race. The winner was under pressure at the 600 and was too good. Previous years we've seen horses like Beau Zam, last year like Castletown, and it's just a shame that a race like this didn't attract a good field, because it is a very, very good race and a great staying guide.
Yeah. You know, front-running stayers are few and far between, and that little horse Western Showdown, whilst he's not top class, he's going to be a fun horse for the owners, I feel.
Oh, definitely. He's a 3-year-old. He's by Western Sympathy, and he's a lovely horse. He's a big horse, and he stays all day, and he always tries, and it's very hard to get a horse like him, and he should, you know, go on and win bigger races.
You better get yourself a few stayers now, mate.
Yes, that'll do. Stayers or spinners, it doesn't matter, as long as they win.
As long as they win.
As long as they win.
More money in 2-year-old racing, isn't it, Clary?
OK, now we turn our attention to Melbourne. Flemington was the venue yesterday. The Straight Six is coming up, and this was a classic Straight Six. They're all over the shop. Look at that group coming down the outside. Now, Marine Park with Michael Clark on board is hard up against the inside rail. A mare by Sir Dapper. Coming down the middle of the track is Alias Comabash and My Satin Star on the extreme outside. By gee, it must be hard to line them up when you're riding these horses, Shane.
Oh, it really is. The commentator went for the horse on the fence, and I swear blind that the middle one won. You'll see here, getting to the post, it looks as though the middle one has won. Like, he's half a length in front there looking at it, and he got beat.
Yep, the one on the inside got there by a nose. You know, Sir Dapper took a long while to hit his straps as a sire. I think people got at him too early, expecting them all to be 2-year-olds.
Well, he hasn't done very well in the 2-year-old, well, horses that have been by him. No doubt he will improve.
Yeah, have you had any, Clary, any of the Sir
No, don't
Dappers?
have any Sir Dappers now.
OK, now we go to Brisbane, where the Robins Kitchen Cup of 1,200 metres was the principal race. A lot of interest was taken away from it with the scratching of Scalacci. Chortle leads. Barossa Boy is the one to come out after him. Further out in red blinkers is Sonic Express. And the Doncaster winner, Soho Square, in the orange colours with the purple cap. Shane, coming back in distance so quickly, I thought his run was very good, Soho Square.
It was an enormous run. He gets home here very, very strongly. The winner's a very good horse. He's probably just a little off being top class, and but he always picks up these races every year at Brisbane.
Apparently the track was a little suspect in patches, and Lee Friedman just wasn't prepared to risk the big grey horse, eh?
No, well, he hasn't been proved on wet track, and it looked as though it was a wet track yesterday, and I can't wait to see him racing up there, because he's the best sprinter we've ever seen.
He's really something, isn't he?
Oh, it'll never be done what he's done, you know. No 3-year-old will do it.
Well, here's a horse that you rode a few weeks ago in the Rosehill Guineas, Heroicity. In fact, he ran on 3 consecutive Saturdays. Rosehill Guineas, BMW, AJC Derby, a long trek back across the Nullarbor for the Western Australian Derby, and here he is, the big grey, looming up on the outside to take the lead over Marooned by Flood on the inside. Now, it's left to Lincoln's Court on the outside to make a late drive at Heroicity. The horse is entitled to be reaching the end of his tether, but his class got him home. Geez, a good horse.
It was a great win, because Mark Setsnich, the jockey, took off on him at about the 900-metre mark to put him in a winning position, and he still hung on at the end, so it was a very, very strong win.
Straight to the Spelling Paddocks now, I'd imagine, and Melbourne in the spring.
Well, he's entitled to be, because he's been up for a while, and no doubt he'll be a great chance in a race like the Caulfield Cup.
Strangely enough, the day you rode him, he might have been a touch underdone.
He was. He needed the run that day, and he peaked the week later in the BMW.
Yeah. OK, Clary, I want to thank you sincerely for coming all the way in from Warwick Farm. Thanks for your comments about Burst and Shane's ride. You liked it, didn't you?
Yeah, you won. That's the main thing, I suppose, John.
How are the nerves?
Not real good.
Clary Connors, a man who has emerged as one of the best big race trainers in Australia, and I'm sure he'll keep up the good work in future. OK, now, the Kentucky Derby was run in the early hours of this morning, our time, at the Churchill Downs track in Kentucky. The favourite was a horse called Arazi, owned by multi-billionaire Alan Paulson. He's trained in France. He's been taking everything before him in the lead-up to this derby. And let's take a close look at the horse that everybody thought would win this derby by a street.
The Kentucky of France lies just outside Paris in a region dominated by a castle, whose owner, a cousin of the king, believed in reincarnation and was sure he would come back as a horse. This is the area that inspired the artist Degas in his paintings of horses. The light, the color look exactly the same here as when he painted it years and years ago. Here, the horses train on trails of deep sand that run through the woods, over ground ancient and beautiful. Although he was born in Kentucky, Arazi is now an expatriate, training near Chantilly with the famous and accomplished French horseman, Francois Boutin. 200 horses fill Boutin's 3 barns, and although many have been winning horses, this is his first Kentucky Derby contender. With a small gesture to his riders, Boutin trains his horses, never using a stopwatch to measure their progress, relying instead on memory and instinct.
I am against the stopwatch because the stopwatch prevents the trainer from being interested in his horses. Because this profession is a profession of observation. You have to watch your horses every day. You have to live with them. And if you always have this stopwatch, the only thing you watch is the stopwatch.
Morning training at Boutin's area near Chantilly is usually a quiet pursuit. Trainer and horses going about their work, there is little talk, much peace and serenity. But lately that has all changed. Now media from all over the world tromp through the quiet woods to glimpse for themselves the horse some call the greatest since Secretariat.
Arazi hits his best stride.
The excitement started last November at the Breeders' Cup when Arazi made an electrifying move on the final turn to beat the field by 5 lengths.
And Arazi runs right by him. Here indeed is a superstar.
But after that race, he underwent arthroscopic surgery as a precautionary measure, an undertaking that's always risky for a young horse, and returned to France to recuperate. The surgery left people wondering if Arazi would ever be the same again, if his last race was his best race. And then in early April, with Steve Coughlin aboard, the jockey who rode Affirm to the last Triple Crown in 1978, Arazi ran to another 5-length victory in his only prep race before the Derby. But doubts lingered and criticism abounded. Was just one race enough to get a horse ready for the Kentucky Derby? Most American trainers raise their eyebrows to record heights.
I have observed the Kentucky Derby for many years. I noticed that 2 of every 3 horses that are in the race are, in my opinion, totally past their ideal shape. I see them before the race, and the race is already practically over for them because they are in terrible condition, run down.
And who would know better? Almost every morning for over a year, he has watched Arazi run with eyes as keen for horses as Degas were for light and color.